Hey guys, how's it going? Do want to do a little video today. I had a request come in from one of my viewers asking about a couple different things. First of all, about purchasing their own helicopter and then buying new versus used, and then the operating cost of a helicopter, like the maintenance and so forth. So I thought I'd do a little video just kind of going over a few of my opinions anyways. As you guys probably know from a previous video that I did, when I was 18, I bought my first helicopter. It was a little Schweitzer 300 CB model, and I was 18 at the time. Didn't really know a lot of what I was doing. There was a lot of unknowns. I talked to a lot of people. I got some basic numbers about maintenance and this and that, operating costs and so forth, and so I had a bit of an idea of what I was doing, but again, I was 18. Since then, I have grown up a little bit. I've gotten a few more gray hairs, as you guys can probably tell, and so I've learned a few things. And one thing that I have learned, even just recently here, as I was looking for a helicopter for a customer of mine, is just depends on who you talk to. You get a lot of different opinions from people based on what their thoughts are and what their bias is as well, depending on what kind of helicopters they operate and so forth. So I'm just going to give you guys a very minor overview on just my opinions on buying a personal helicopter. Again, the opinions are vast and varied, so take it with a grain of salt, and you guys can use it as you will. But anyways, so you kind of have different categories of helicopters, the way I look at it, depending on what your budget is, and you really have to ask yourself what kind of what are you looking for in a helicopter. So I'm just going to first talk about the smallest budget and sort of the smallest helicopter, the two-seat helicopters, and what my opinions are on those. As you guys know, we operate the Schweitzer 300, the CBI version, and we really love that as a training helicopter. So there's the Schweitzer 300 versus, I guess, the other ones that are in that market are the Robinson R22. And then I guess there's an Enstrom. I'm not really a big fan of the Enstrom. And now the new Cabri, the gimbal Cabri G2, which is what we're going to be transitioning into. So as far as a training helicopter goes, on the market currently in Canada, I think the Schweitzer is the best way to go. Cabri, I think, is taking that market over, so we're excited about that. I personally don't think, as a privately owned helicopter, I don't think anybody should be owning an R22 or Robinson R22. That's my personal opinion. We used to operate them a long time ago. I just personally don't feel that they're a safe enough helicopter for somebody to be using, especially as a training helicopter, and then as a private helicopter, sort of in the wrong hands, in the wrong conditions. I'm not going to get into a lot of details about that, but that's my personal opinion about that. And there's lots of studies you can read up about why the Robinson 22 has some inherent issues with it. But anyways, that's a different topic. So in my eyes, in the very light category, currently there's the Schweitzer 300. The operating cost on it is relatively low. It is hard. I'm just going to talk a little bit about operating costs here. It's very hard to just sort of nail down numbers as far as operating cost goes, and the reason for that, you sort of break it down into different categories. You have your fixed operating cost and your variable operating cost, and so a lot of it is dependent on how much you fly it per year, and that's the thing as a private owner. It's very hard to know that. Some people only fly 20 or 30 hours a year, which is very little. Some people fly like 200 hours a year, 500 hours a year. As a private guy, it's hard to do a lot more than 200 hours a year unless you have a real direct purpose for using it. Maybe you're using it kind of as a side thing for your business, depending on what you do and if you travel a lot or something. So yeah, so operating costs can change a lot depending on how much you use it. So you have fixed things like your fuel, that's a fixed cost. Your maintenance is a fixed cost. The hangering is a fixed cost, so you can't really get around those kind of things. The big variables are going to be your insurance. So insurance is a huge variable depending on how much you're flying it, because you might pay, let's say, $20,000 a year for the insurance, and if you only fly 20 hours a year, you're paying a lot on insurance per hour, whereas if you fly it 200 hours a year, that's going to be a lot better on your operating costs. So hard to nail down an exact cost for those. But your big things to remember for operating is you have your insurance, you have your maintenance, and that covers your major part overhaul as well as your hourly maintenance. So every 100-hour inspection or 50-hour inspection that you're getting on that aircraft has a certain amount of cost allotted for that. And then there's the spares and unexpected things that come up. There's usually a number in there for that as well. And then fuel. So those are the major costs that you'd be looking at. Some other minor things would be your training or recurrency training costs if you want to stay recurrent, and then hangaring cost as well. So from a maintenance point of view, that's kind of what you're looking at. Usually in the light helicopter, like the 2-seat helicopter, you're looking at approximately $250 an hour for your operating costs. And as I say, that's a pretty hard number to nail down, but that's just to give you a real rough ballpark. So in that category, I think the number one winner right now, and it's just getting certified in Canada, so it's just becoming relevant in Canada now, is the Gimbal Cabri G2. So that's the number one winner there. And in lots of parts of the world, it's already certified. In the US, it's certified. In most countries in Europe, actually all of Europe, everything under EASA rules, it's now certified. So that's sort of the number one. Price point for a brand new one, it's a lot more expensive. It would be about 500,000 Canadian, about 330,000 euro, about 380,000 I think US dollars. So for a new one of that, very expensive. You can't get a new Schweitzer anymore. So for sort of the newest you could find, you're looking at probably more like 200,000, 250,000. So definitely cheaper on that front. So the next bump up is the Robinson R44, and that's probably the most common helicopter as a private helicopter right now. So the Robinson R44 is about 550,000 US dollars if you're buying it brand new, maybe a little bit higher than that now. And it's a 4-seat helicopter. It flies much faster. You're flying around 110 knots, so that's nice. You have quite a bit of baggage compartments under the seats, so lots of room for storage. And operating cost is really low as well, so Robinson's done a really good job at that. They've kept that cost as well. If you want to have a breakdown of the operating cost of the Robinson 44, you can go on Robinson's website, and they give you a breakdown of their operating costs there, so you can get a pretty good idea of that. I think the Robinson 44 is a great helicopter for private owners. There's again, with Robinson, all of them, the R22, R44, and R66, they all have the same type of rotor system. And if you wanted to do some research on that rotor system specifically, there are some inherent issues with it. It's very susceptible to, well, if you had a low G pushover, it's susceptible to certain dangers. So you might want to do some research in that for your own purposes. Other than that, if it's in the right hands and it's flown by the right type of pilot who has some experience and who's aware of these dangers and limitations, it's really just limitations flying it in high wind conditions and just being careful with low G maneuver. If you're flying it in the right conditions, it's a fantastic helicopter. And for the cost, it is really hard to beat. And that's why Robinson's selling so many of them, and it's the #1 selling helicopter in the world. So for a lot of people, that ends up being a really great option. So you have to ask yourself, do I need those 2 extra seats? I would think that you would be personally more safe in something like a Cabri G2. However, you're gonna fly a little bit slower, and you only have 2 seats. You still have some baggage compartment, which is nice. Whereas in the Robinson 44, you get those extra 2 seats. You're gonna fly a little bit faster, and so that's gonna be really nice. The cost is a little bit higher in that one, of course, as well. So that's kind of the middle, and there's really no competitors right now in that market. The Robinson 44 has no competitors. We are hoping, we've been told that Cabri, I guess it's Gimbal. Gimbal is going to be coming out with a larger helicopter. We haven't been told if it's a 4 or 5-seater. We also don't know when that's coming out. We're really excited to see some news about that, because that is going to be just fantastic. I think that's going to jump right in there. I'm hoping it's a 4-seater with either a piston engine or a diesel engine, and it's going to be right in that market of the Robinson 44, because I know that it's going to have a 3-bladed, fully articulated rotor system, elastomeric head, and stuff like that. So I'm really excited about that. Again, I have no idea when that's coming out. When we go over to the factory, sorry, when we go over to the factory in January, I'm hoping to get an update and see if they have any information at all about when that one's going to be coming out. So that's sort of the mid-market. Then you get yourself into the higher market, and that's getting into the turbine. And so now your options open up a bit. You have the Bell 206, which is an older helicopter. Then now just brand new certified in Canada, and first certification is the new Bell 505. And so that one's going to be replacing the old Bell 206. Basically the same helicopter, just more modernized. And then you have the Robinson R66, which is a turbine as well, and then the EC-120, the Eurocopter EC-120. So those are all the helicopters kind of in that market. They're all going to be pretty similar price points, depending on what you're looking at and what year and so forth. So like a brand new R66 runs at about $850,000 as a base model. I think the Bell 505 is coming in right around $1 million. And a used EC-120, but in really nice condition, is right around that $1 million mark as well. So between $850,000 to $1 million. If you're looking for a brand new EC-120, I think it's more like $1.5 million, so it is a lot more expensive. But you are getting a lot more helicopter in the Eurocopter EC-120. So again, you have to ask yourself, what are you looking for? Is safety a massive concern for you? Then you might want to stick out of away from the Robinson R66 because it has that same type of rotor system. I personally am biased to the 3-bladed rotor system, so I would way rather have something like an EC-120 over the Bell 206 or the new Bell 505. That's a personal opinion. You get away from some of the safety concerns of the 2-bladed semi-rigid or semi-articulated rotor systems like the Robinson has. So that's something for you to personally think about and to weigh out what your thoughts are on that. The EC-120 has a nice open cockpit, flat floor, which the new Bell 505 has as well. So there's just a lot of things to think about, and again, you have to ask yourself, what am I looking for in a helicopter? What am I using it for? What are the main purposes? What is my budget as far as purchasing the aircraft? How many hours am I going to fly it? And what is the operating cost that I'm comfortable with? So I find pretty much for any helicopter you want to buy, if you're going to fly it in the ballpark of 200 hours a year, that's sort of where the helicopter breaks even and kind of becomes something that makes sense and is affordable. If you're going to fly it less than that, you're going to spend a lot more on the variable costs like the insurance and so forth. So just a few thoughts to think about. I would highly suggest that if you are in the market for a helicopter, a private helicopter, talk to somebody, talk to a specialist, get the feelers out there, talk to different people as well. Find somebody that you trust. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I have a customer that I'm working with right now. He's been watching these vlogs, and so he's kind of gotten to know me. So he's found somebody that he trusts, and let that person work with you as well. Again, everybody's going to have their own bias on what they think is the best. So get the feelers out there, find out what's going to be best for you, and test them out as well. Fly the different helicopters, do a lot of research. There's really no such thing as a good deal in a helicopter. It's usually, if you find something that's cheap, there's a reason for it. Either, there's a lot of maintenance coming due on it, a lot of components that need to be done on it or something like that. So there's really no such thing as a cheap helicopter or a really good deal on a helicopter. That just means usually that there's something wrong with it, or it just has a bad history or something like that, or there's components coming due on it. So don't be fooled when you're looking online at helicopters to buy, like, hey, I can buy myself a really cheap helicopter. That doesn't really exist. If you're wanting something that's quality, we care about safety greatly. So if you want quality and safety and something that's not going to all of a sudden cost you a whole lot of money a few hours down the road, you're just going to have to pay for what's on the market, really, and pay for a good helicopter. So keep that in mind. Those are just my thoughts. I hope you guys have a great week. I hope you guys like this video. If you found it interesting, give it a thumbs up. you can always subscribe to my channel. I always love that. And yeah, hope you guys really enjoy your week, and New Year's coming up this weekend as well. So Happy New Year to everybody, and I guess we'll talk to you guys in 2017.